To the prelude from our South Valley singers. Good morning on this beautiful spring day. As we begin, please turn off or silence any electronic devices that may disturb the service. I invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary and note joys and concerns in the brook there. If you have little ones, we have a nursery downstairs, and today's service, I invite you to go outside to the front. We will be doing our Maypole celebration, and then after that, we have tacos downstairs. For further announcements, you can look in your order of service and note the many ways to be engaged and involved in this vibrant community.
Hello, my name is Ann Hess, a member of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley, and I welcome you today. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. If you come here with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, you are welcome here.
Good morning. Do you feel the pull of spring? The tugging of those wisteria branches that are now threatening to come in through our windows. The restlessness of spring that we feel as we breathe in the air and as we see these trees burst into bloom one after another. Today, I am remembering the restlessness of questions. The restlessness that I have felt at different times in my life, as if I would burst from that restlessness of questions that kept popping up in my head. So this morning, we are going to begin with the words of Rainer Maria Rilke, who wrote these marvelous letters to a young man who wanted to become a poet. He speaks of questions and advises in this way: be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. For all of the questions in this room, and for that distant day when answers will also be appearing, I invite you to stand in body or spirit and let us sing when our heart is in a holy place in the Teal hymnal, number 1008.
Please remain standing for the chalice.
I'd like to invite Sierra Peters to come up and love our chalice.
Sierra. She's coming.
Good morning. My name is Brent Shaw. I'm the chair of the stewardship campaign, and I just wanted to give a quick update on where we are as we head into May when we have our congregational meeting. We'll be voting on our budget. Our target for this year was $165,000 for our stewardship campaign. Last year was $150,000, and we are right now at $156,674. We are really close. There are a few of you, I'm trying not to make eye contact because it's not important, that I know are intending to turn in 3T forms. Please do that today if you can, turn them into that box, it's not too late. Even if you, for any reason, are not able to make a financial pledge this year, it would help if you would fill out one of these forms, put it in the box. That way we know not to chase you down and ask, just as we're doing our follow-up part of this campaign. So again, thank all of you so much for all of your gifts. We are in the home stretch, and we should be able to reach our goal. Thank you again so much.
All right, I'd like to invite all of the young and young at heart to come forward for our time for all ages. There are quite a few of you this morning. Were any of you here last Sunday and went to children's chapel? Any of you? Raise your hand. Do any of you remember what you talked about in children's chapel last Sunday? Maypole dancing. That is. Do you remember what the name of the holiday is that we're celebrating today for May Day? It's the Maypole holiday. It's true. Lily. Beltane. Thank you. So Beltane is comes from a Celtic word, I believe. Somebody else can correct me. That celebrates the midpoint between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. Now, lots of earth-based spiritualities celebrate at these same points in the year, whether they're Native American or Picts or Celts or all kinds of people all around the world celebrate these holidays at approximately the same time. They might have different names for them. But it's all about celebrating the wheel of the year, the cycle of the seasons. And I thought that I would share with you why that happens and why I connect with this as a mostly atheist person, why I celebrate these holidays that most people would say are the pagan holidays, which is a spiritual tradition. But anyway, here we go. Here's the earth. Whoop, wrong direction. We're on this side. Well, I mean, really, it's all a matter of perspective, right? Everybody's seen those new maps, right? Okay. So here we are on the earth, on our continent, about, here, where those big mountains are, on that side. And we're traveling around the earth, right? And we're spinning, and each spin around is a day, right? But we're also going in a circle around the sun. What kind of a circle? But we're going around the sun as well, right? And that's a year. But you'll notice that during the year where we live, sometimes it's really warm, and sometimes it's really not warm. What do we call those times? What do you think? Spring and summer and fall and winter, right? So during the winter, it's cold. So here's the tricky part that sometimes it takes a while to understand. There's an invisible pole going through the earth. I put a real stick. There's an invisible line going through the earth. And as we're traveling around the sun, it tips. Sometimes where we are is tipping towards the sun. Pretend like I'm the sun. Funny face. Sometimes where we live is pointing towards the sun. And sometimes where we live, it's pointing away from the sun. What time of the year do you think it is when we're pointing towards the sun? What do you think? Summer. Very good. So when we are 100% as far as we can tilting towards the sun, that is a special day. That is the summer solstice. That is the height of being tipped that direction, right? The winter solstice is when we're tipped the furthest away from the sun. So, if you take a look at those different times throughout the year for our seasons, many native and pagan traditions celebrate 8 moments during the year that are evenly spaced. So we have the summer solstice, which is when we're the closest. The winter solstice, when we're the furthest tipped away. The spring equinox is right in the middle between winter and summer. And today's holiday, Beltane, or May Day, is the point right halfway in between those two. So it's right in between spring equinox and summer solstice. Now, I don't know about you, but when the spring equinox comes in March, does it feel like winter is over? No, not in our world, right? It snowed plenty of times after March 21st, right? In my lifetime, I don't know about yours, but it snowed plenty of times. So it's exciting to know that spring is here, but I think that this holiday, Beltane, is way more exciting because you can feel that summer is on its way, and you can see lots and lots of flowers and other things growing and getting ready for summer. So, I can understand why, if I didn't know the scientific reason that we were moving towards the sun, I would want to celebrate right now, right? Because summer is coming and summer is much easier to survive. So if you're going to celebrate something, what are some of the things you like to do when you celebrate? What do you think? You like to ride bikes. Awesome. What do you like to do? You like to go to friends' houses. Okay. What do you think? Eat cake. I like that. And do. So what we are going to do together today after classes is do a maypole, and it involves being active and being with your friends and doing 2 things that I think are super fun. One is bringing lots of color into the world. So all of you have my colorful scarves. Stand up. So we're going to celebrate, yeah, you want people to see. We're going to celebrate with colors, like we're waving around. And then we're going to celebrate with some activity that I think really shows that we're having fun. And this is where everybody stands up. Everybody stand up. The other thing we're going to do around the maypole is dance, right? So, it's going, okay, you don't have to because you have asthma. That's right. Everybody is welcome here, and you don't have to dance, but you're invited to dance. So everybody do a little dance right now. We are celebrating that summer is just about here. And what's the last piece that we need to celebrate? Where are my flowers? Yeah. So there will be flowers, and there will be colors, and there will be dancing. And then, who mentioned cake? And then afterwards, there will be something almost equal to cake. Tacos. So after we dance and create beautiful colors together, we'll share that meal downstairs. And now it's time for all of us to go downstairs for our classes.
I invite you to listen to the sound of this bell and find that place within you, that place of stillness. Let us take a deep breath of the refreshing spring air. And extend our feelings beneath our feet, remembering the earth that is so close to us. And if we could go down farther and farther, we would go through all those marvelous layers of history, of change, down to the fiery core. I invite you too to consider what is above us. If we moved up beyond this building, we would move through the clear today, clear air, through the clouds, through the atmosphere, up into the place of stars, and farther into those places that are invisible to the eye, in the places where stars are born, and too where there is constant change. Each Sunday when we gather carrying with us the joys and sorrows of our personal lives, the lives of our families, the lives of our community, and the lives of this world, and the natural earth. Today, especially, we invite into this space the questions that are so much a part of who we are. The questions that come up in children one after another. The questions that are sometimes stopped by people around us. And those that in hospitality, that is a word, that creates suffering in us. Let us consider again those questions. We also invite into this space the people who are especially on our minds, who would like to hold in the light of this community. I invite you to say with me those names into this space as we begin a time, a minute of silence. May we carry this memory of silence with us as we carry the light of this community into our lives. And may we hold the sorrows that have been brought and also the joys that are brought into this community and the questions in that light and silence. Amen.
One way that we at South Valley support our community is to share our Sunday morning offerings. Today, we will share our offering with Volunteers of America's Homeless Youth Shelter. Volunteers of America offers much-needed services for homeless youth, such as showers, laundry services, and hot meals. And with their new shelter anticipated to open this year, they will be able to provide emergency shelter beds for up to 800 youth per year. For more information, please see your order of service. Will you join with me in saying the words printed in the order of service for our offering? We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. South Valley and Volunteers of America, thank you for your gifts.
Today's reading is number 551 in the Great Hymnal. Please participate in this reading by responding to the verse of the 9 minutes. Earth, teach me. Earth, teach me stillness, as the grasses are stilled with light.
Earth, teach me suffering, as old stones suffer.
Earth, teach me caring, as parents who secure their young.
Earth, teach me courage, as a tree which stands all alone.
Earth, teach me limitation, as the ant which crawls on the ground.
Earth, teach me freedom, as the eagle which soars in the sky.
Earth, teach me resignation, as the leaves which die in the fall.
Earth, teach me regeneration, as the seed which rises in the spring.
Earth, teach me to forget myself, as melted snow forgets its life.
Earth, teach me to remember kindness, as ripe fields speak with the rain.
This reading is from the Ute Indians of North America.
It's, just try again.
I think it was covered by you.
Thanks. That song that we just sang was a song from our Transylvanian Unitarian brothers and sisters who are at the roots of Unitarianism from the 16th century. And today in my sermon, I will speak a little bit about them. But what I want to tell you first of all is that they are marvelous, real people who love to sing. And I have spoken before of the time Lou and I spent with them in Poland, investigating the Unitarians in Poland. And at night, we would gather, and they would drink a great deal of this very strong liquor from cherries or something, isn't it? I think cherries. And they would sing, and then they would invite us to sing. And then the other people in the place where we were would start to sing. And there would be this great singing back and forth. And anyway, I feel such a bond to them. Today, I am remembering my great-grandfather, James Brown. He was born in Carluke, Scotland, and although he joined the LDS Church when he was 19 years old in Carluke, Scotland, and then quickly came here and settled in Evanston, Wyoming, he took much with him of an old pagan religion from Scotland. He did mysterious things. I never knew him. He died before I was born, but I know much of him because he loved my mother best of all and wrote her poems. But he was famous for throwing salt over his shoulder at unexpected times. For some reason now that has been lost, that was something about keeping his family safe from whatever bad thing was on the way to being done. So he kept with him that old belief system. It was hidden inside his Scottish family culture and the stories he heard long before those missionaries. And he wouldn't have seen any of that as some kind of separate belief that he had. That belief was so intertwined with his very being. One of my favorite buildings in the world is a mission. It's the San Javier Mission south of Tucson. It's a very old, old building. It's white. It's called the Dove of the Desert. And you can see it from very far away. And when you drive on that highway, that is what always would catch my eye. And usually if we had time, we would go off the road and into this church. It is named after San Francisco Javier. Does anyone know him? Who does? San Francisco Javier has churches dedicated to him all over the world. One of the most famous is in Goa. He was a great missionary and scholar. He was also a rather stiff person. As a saint, he's no Saint Francis of Assisi. So for that reason, I imagine the San Francisco, who is lying in the San Francisco Javier Church, gradually became, guess who? Saint Francis of Assisi. And that church became famous for the festival of St. Francis, when people gathered from all over with their animals to celebrate. In symbol that's very much like a labyrinth, that is the symbol of the Tohono O'odham people, on whose land this San Francisco Javier Church is built. This labyrinth has great meaning to the people who worship there. And if you pay attention, close attention to very old churches, and you look around at their symbols, you will see evidence of more than one faith. I believe that as Unitarian Universalists, that we are one of the only denominations who admits it. Other denominations like to hide it. And in my studies of medieval religious history, my professor, who had graduated from this, he was French, his name was Jean Virt, and he wrote the most interesting treatises on churches. But he would study the evolution of saints, like Francisco Javier becomes the St. Francis of Assisi. He found a saint in France who used to be a dog. He would investigate farther and farther back into pagan roots that these saints would become something else. And it has become increasingly strange to me that this aspect, our openness about being multi-faith, it is such a source of disdain and humor in the world. Have you heard the joke, why is it dangerous to upset a Unitarian? Do you know this joke?
No.
He might burn a question mark on your lawn. This is a startling image that juxtaposes the Ku Klux Klan who spread terror of what might happen if African Americans used the freedoms that were their right, such as voting. He juxtaposes that terror with us. And as I prepared for today, being a Unitarian Universalist, this joke brought up a question. Why is questioning such an anathema to some people of faith? I have some experience with this. When I was struggling with my own belief of the church of my ancestors, my mother said ominously, and I can hear her voice, she said, "Patty, if you question, you will leave." At that time, it was true. She was right. At that time, I was a runner. And that hour I ran every day on a track or around neighborhoods saved me. I have spoken of this before, about the endorphins in my body that would reach out and become a lifeboat. During the 4.5 years that Lou and I were separated, voluntarily, such a hard word to say, voluntarily we separated from each other because of our ancestral beliefs. And as I ran and I was pounding the sidewalks, feeling the pain at first. Are many of you runners? Some, see some. You feel that pain at first before the endorphins. And my mind was playing a kind of racquetball with the questions that kept surfacing as I was running. And they would surface one after another. For years, this had been my time to pray. And I was emptying my mind of everything. I was taught that that was what I was supposed to do, that I was supposed to kind of empty my mind and fill it with hymns and things like that. But at some point, as I was running, I began to wonder if this emptying process was damaging to me. I could see the damage in a very real way. I wasn't writing. And when I spoke, I constantly cleared my throat as if my voice was becoming lost. I began to wonder about the Holy Ghost, that voice that I was supposed to hear after I emptied my mind. And I wondered how one knew if it was the voice of the Holy Ghost or it was some kind of super religious craziness. And even as I was writing these words yesterday, I started to feel this really strange feeling in my jaw, remembering that time when I was deeply troubled. And I decided to risk putting this question out into the air. It was a woman I had known in the church, in the LDS church, and I had talked with her. And I asked her my question, and she sat and listened. And then I sat and waited and listened for her answer. She looked at me, she took a deep breath, and then she sighed. The problem, she said, is not finding an answer to the question. The problem is what to do with people with questions. The words hit me hard. Later, I laughed, because laughter, and I think that's true for many of us, is a good way to start feeling ourselves. Oh dear. I think I'll move this just a moment. I don't want to make this difficult for you. But I did laugh afterwards, and I imagined what she thought should be done with the people like me who had questions. Did she want there to be a trap door under me that she could operate with a kind of remote control? And being a student of medieval religious studies, I thought of the Inquisition and the ways that the medieval Catholic Church tried to rid itself of the people who questioned. I have heard similar stories from many of you. I have heard these stories coming from a variety of religious backgrounds. When our questions are not tolerated by the group in which we belong, to which we belong, we feel deeply that we do not belong. And if that feeling becomes so uncomfortable, then we have to leave. And that is a surprising thing for me, because some people are not that uncomfortable when they feel that what is inside them is different and would not be accepted. And I think that's just part of how we are different as human beings. But I was seriously uncomfortable. And I welcome all of you who were uncomfortable and then were able to find your way to this place. As children, we question. In my experience, we are not just trying to find out the answer, at least that was me. I was certain I had a better answer. I had something to give, a new perspective. My mother says when I was 3, she would often look at me, and this was strange. She would wonder if I was 3 or 83. There was no in between. And I knew that this was really hard. This is hard for busy parents. Right, Cody? Hazel's always asking about the helicopters. But this is the time when our children learn of our respect for them. When people have questions and we listen, This is how we show love to them, a love that is felt. We listened. For many of us, giving up questions, being unable to question, would be a kind of death. It was a kind of death that I experienced for a while when I was trying to conform to a world without questions. So as good parents, as spouses, as friends, and being good to ourselves, we encourage a free exploration of ideas. With many religious faiths, there comes a time, like the one I described, when questioning is discouraged, and our natural, for humans, I believe, multi-religious tendencies go underground if they need to. Because we need, many of us, not all of us, I could never say that about you. Many of us yearn for, we need a spiritual life in order to feel whole. And we need spiritual freedom. I have met Catholic religious sisters whose beliefs have expanded way beyond the catechism into Buddhism and Hinduism and many other beliefs. And in Salt Lake City and in my own family, I have met people born LDS whose beliefs are a hybrid that has grown out of their experience. Thomas Merton, somebody, if you do not know him, read some of his books. He was a Trappist priest, writing in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and he struggled with the openings he was experiencing and writing about in his studies of Buddhism and Hinduism. And as he opened to religious dialogue and traveled around the world, guess what? His denomination became really afraid of what he was doing. He was opening to a multi-faith world. And in 1968, when he died in an accident, that's why many people thought they must have murdered him. What do we do with these dangerous people with questions? In this place, I hope that you dangerous people can find a way for your religious life to continue to expand. And if questions have been scared out of you, that you will relearn this habit of questioning. I hope that you leave each service full of questions. We have a wonderful library and 4 skilled librarians who can help you navigate the amazing selection of books we have from many faiths. Here in this place, in this community, you can believe in evolution. You can explore Christianity, Buddhism, atheism. You can explore the spirituality of scientists like David Suzuki or the naturalist John Muir, or the poets like the one I quoted in the opening words, Rainer Maria Rilke and his love of questions. You can explore our rich Unitarian Universalist history, for it is full of people who came with questions. In the 16th century, in the area of the world called Transylvania, there was a Unitarian king named King Sigismund. He reigned for 7 years, and during that time, he established a law about religious tolerance called the Edict of Torda. At that time, the part of the world where he lived, this Transylvania, was a kind of borderland of the Ottoman Empire. which was Muslim, and the largely Christian-ruled Europe. At that time, the liberal Muslim rule of the Ottoman Empire kept the Unitarians, who would have been chased by the Inquisition, kept them safe. Isn't that interesting? The historian Susan Ritchie wrote this wonderful book, which I hope will be in our library soon, called Children of the Same God. I just heard her speak about this book in Santa Fe, and she found evidence that many times she found evidence in the anti-Unitarian and anti-Muslim writing that place, Transylvania, was multi-religious, that there were people of different faiths sitting together and influencing each other. She found them in the anti-writings because they would talk about how horrible that was, but that helped her to see what was. She wrote that the Edict of Torda was prepared from the everyday lives of people who were already living in a multi-religious way. And she also said that this Unitarian historical document that then gave it Islamic roots. The first time I wore this stole, beautiful stole made by Cynthia Dobbs in the third row, at a service, and usually after a service, if my eyes are glazed, it's because often I'm tired. I try not to be, but I am. And I talked with a lot of different people, and I went downstairs, and I saw somebody new, and I talked to them, and after 2 minutes, he said, "I think your stole is ridiculous." You can't possibly be serious about wearing this stole. And I said to him, I am serious. I haven't seen him again. And although I continued talking with him for a while, I realized that he wasn't really listening to what I had to say, and I was kind of too tired to listen to what he was saying. But he especially didn't like the symbol here of Islam. And I looked up this symbol of the crescent moon and star, and I discovered the symbol actually predates Islam by these ancient symbols were in use by the peoples of Central Asia and Siberia. And the moon and the gods of the sky symbol is multi-religious in a way. And I wear all of these symbols proudly. And I wonder, just as those anti-Muslim and anti-Unitarian writings of the 16th century shed light on that society, I wonder if the joke about the burning question mark says something about the world around us. The possibility of questioning invokes fear. Real fear, I think. Because these questions open us to the wisdom found in other ways of thinking, and may lead us to new ways of articulating how to live in the world, and inspire us to great things, and perhaps even a new way of life. Some people, some of us, are born Protestant, Catholic, LDS, and on, and some even Unitarian. And we find a new life in Buddhism or Taoism. My first spiritual experience after leaving the LDS church was in a Hindu temple. The festival of the full moon, when women got up and danced to the moon. And anyway, I think that when we reach into those places, we often find something that touches our heart in a new way. Our heart that has been broken by another faith sometimes. Our Japanese friend, who was born into Buddhism, came to us one day and said, "I have decided to become a Protestant." When we asked her why, she said that she liked the people there, and she felt that there was a kind of kindness in the relationships. She was joining the Protestant faith in Japan, so that faith was really a very small minority. And here in the West, many have turned to Buddhism, which was the faith of her family. They have turned to Buddhism articulated by teachers such as Pema Chodron and Thich Nhat Hanh because of their teachings of loving kindness. But those teachings are in a new way for us. When we close ourselves to being multi-religious, I believe we are really missing out. As humans with weaknesses that seem to appear over and over in our life, even when we feel that we have solved them, often a new religion can give us a different perspective on that pesky problem that we are dealing with. The problem that may seem insurmountable from the perspective of our birth families. As your minister, I will try to study hard and dig deep, to bring to you perspectives from many different religions to this pulpit, including new perspectives from Christianity. May we as a community be proudly multi-religious and brazenly continue to question in the face of fear and in the face of jokes. And may we dance gleefully around the maypole after this service. May we remember the roots of our ancestors in pagan religions that celebrated this time when flocks were taken out to pasture. My Scottish great-grandfather may just join us. He completely believed that the spirit world is all around us. And perhaps it is. May it be so. Amen. And may we stand in body and for spirit and sing the fire of commitment. Number 1028 is the appeal to as we call those questions to one another. Amen. May it be so.
Next week probably makes no sense to play by title, but it still has meaning to me. The mercy, needing forgiveness of God or from others is more than most of us, and I think we can find solace in nature and the circumstances of the religions.
Time in the service, before we extinguish our chalice, this is the time when we invite those who are visiting with us for the first time or after a very long time, even if you are a member, if you haven't been here for a very long time and feel forgotten, I invite you to stand and